Testing, testing. All right, we got sound and YouTube. And it looks like we're good on picture. It's okay. Lighting's okay. It's not great. Let's get Instagram on. Make sure we're all on together because we're a family, right? The clutter-free family. Hello, welcome to the Clarity Hotline. Got Instagram and YouTube. I'm feeling a lot better and than last week for sure, and then the week before that. So happy to be back in full swing on our Clarity Hotline. And a lot of questions that I had to kind of filter through and see which ones do I feel like answering today. So I took a peek. There's good ones. So we'll see what we have a chance to get to. I'll even let you in on some of them. How do I know if I'm doing visualization right? How do I take on an investor? And how do I know when it's the right time? And I think those are the ones that kind of made it to the top of the list, because the other ones have to do with like equal distribution of labor in the home and mental load. A lot of the stuff that I've been putting out on YouTube right now that I think are follow-up questions to some of that content. So if you've seen any of that and you have questions, chime on in here. But yeah, let's just be in this space. Let's do our deep breath. You know the drill. Inhale and exhale. Inhale. Long exhale. And just thank you for being on. Thank you for being here. Thanks for joining me, whether you're live right now or watching the replay. And anyway, I value this time. I definitely had to center myself before getting on here, because, you really have to watch your vibration when you're coming on. And me personally, in my opinion, coming on and, answering questions. I'm not trying to be anybody's guru, and I'm just, sharing my opinions. And, I kind of want to be grounded in that. I just want to own what I'm doing here and, why I'm taking up space. I really value this time, value your time. And so I just wanted to say that as you're taking your big inhale and your big exhale, because I think letting you in on kind of where I'm at mentally, physically, emotionally is going to help you kind of like, hey, I'm feeling that vibe too. Let's, let me join her. And so you just get me. And then I feel like, like attracts like. You might be on this call when you're maybe in my position, and maybe something I say, helps you. That's the goal. Anyway, so hopefully that helped. Inhale, exhale. Don't stop breathing and centering until you feel calm and good again, because we really want to create this space on the Clarity Hotline to allow in clarity, okay? And then release out anxiety and the things that just get in the way, that clutter up our view of our world, the world we're creating, the world we get to create with just our thoughts and our awareness, right? Our present moment awareness at any time, right? It all factors in. And it kind of, okay, so since we're since we're being transparent here, something's been on my mind, and I want to ask you a question. Okay, so this question is for you from me. What's your take on spoiling a child with affection? Do you think that that's possible? I don't know that I've ever, let me say the question again. Do you think it's possible to spoil a child with affection? I don't. I'm a boy mom, if we haven't met yet, and I just love my boys, and I know I dote on them, but I am instilling a lot of like discipline and structure, and I think some people think they walk all over me, but I don't think so. I think I'm just I am modeling the behavior sometimes I wish they would have in moments of like frustration or everything just like, life is melting around me and everything's falling apart. Like when you're trying to get dinner done and homework at the same time, and there's so many questions from the homework team and no help on the meal prep team. It's a lot. So anyway, like in those moments, I want to model the behavior that they get to have, and when it's modeled to somebody, it's possible without even realizing that you needed to know that, that type of behavior is possible. Because life is messy, life gets crazy and hectic, and that's the constant. That's going to happen. Nothing will change that constant. Will change that fact of our human existence here, because that's the name of the game. We're met with kind of the conflict and the contrast and the environments that show us, okay, well, this is what's possible. And this is also the alternative, right? So which one would you rather have? You pick and choose. So in any moment you're picking and choosing, right? What is possible, what could be, what you really want, and then, the alternative to that. And so there's kind of this allowing for really just the good that flows in the universe for you on your behalf, and you get to ride that wave or not, right? Or you can just get off the surfboard and swim back to shore. So anyway, when it comes to, spoiling kids with affection, I don't know that that's possible. However, I do believe in the duality of things, right? We benefit from that contrast. So having, a two-partner parent, what do you call that? Two-parent family? Dual? I don't know. Is there a word for that? I don't know. Anyway, when you have two parents in a household, two parents bringing up the kids, right? A solid foundation environment for a kid, your upbringing, to have the not the dueling nature. I'm saying the duality, right? Like the complementing, the compatible natures, like yin and yang, which I feel like I bring up a lot lately. This yin and yang connection, this like partnering of behavior to show the world what's possible and the alternative, right? And so at any point, we're, living our truth, going about our business, and we're met with contrast and conflict and I want to say criteria for change, but I don't know. I haven't really thought that through, but that's what's coming in my spirit. It's kind of like, this is allowing us to like see, okay, how am I going to respond here? And why I don't think you can spoil a kid with affection, especially in the early years when they're littles, up to, 6, 7 years old. And there's some science to back, how much motherhood, that mother nature, nurture time with a child in their youth is so important, so look it up. And there is kind of the science that backs the cognitive development, because when you're cognitively being developed, what else also is part of that? Like hormones, developing your hormones, oxytocin, serotonin, being exposed to those hormones, those, why am I blanking on what they actually are? Neurotransmitters. That's also part of cognitive development, right? We want to feel those things, and especially coming from our safe place, home. So you're a child growing up in this world, new to everything, and you're exposed to the duality of nature in your household with somebody who's just really firm and strong and, doesn't take no for an answer and is charging through life like, nobody's going to get to me. And then there's kind of the opposite of that. There's I hate to use the word opposite. There's like the accompanying nature to that, where it's like, I am going to take the world in. I am going to embrace love and experience joy and freedom and everything that flows there, right? And then I'm also going to know, how to take care of myself and survival. It's kind of like this divine masculine and divine feminine. We need both. We need the survival skills, the the I don't know, well, both have strength of character, feminine and masculine. It's not just about survival for the male um, energy, but there's like it's very results oriented, very logical, linear. It's kind of like if I do A, I get B. Over here, it's kind of like if I do A, B, if I do A, more of A or B or C or D or F, like all can happen for me. It's like, just the possibilities are endless. So it's kind of like a dreamer needs a doer, and that little balance is a beautiful symbiosis. And so we don't want to lose that. And so I don't know that it's possible to spoil a child who, in the early days of their lives, need that affection, because they need to know how those hormones feel, when it's safe to feel them, what it feels like when it is safe to feel them, right? And to not be judged and not to be held back or shamed for giving into the feeling that brings about in you, right? The nestling in and cuddling longer and asking for your mommy or daddy's hands. There's no shame in that. And it makes me sad when it is turned down because nope, you got to be a man, you got to be a strong woman. It's kind of like they're denied that kind of stuff too soon. Whereas the world is always distributing out both of those personalities in droves. It's endless. It's abundant. They're going to get that. They're going to get both. The duality of nature is going to be in their face on a constant regular. Like it's just going to be how it is. That's just life. I just think in the home, having the exposure to that duality and how you respond in the face of it is the point of a safe and cozy upbringing. One that is safe and cozy up to a point, right? Then it starts to introduce discipline and structure and chores, like responsibility and owning your space in the world, right? You're taking up space. What are you doing here? Let's talk about what do you feel is your purpose? What do you love to do? In those conversations, I think I can't imagine, not having those conversations. This wasn't my thought process when my boys were younger. Now, as nearing the end of toddler age, we're entering more like social environments and maybe more complicated behavior because, of course, yeah, they're socializing more. They're going to daycare, preschool, kinder, and they're experiencing other personalities and like, oh, this is my personality against yours. And how does that look? And is there conflict? And are we getting along? Are we able to hug it out? Does sorry work here? That kind of thing. And they're learning all those things, and you want it to always be a safe space, especially your first time at anything. You want to be in a safe space to experience the experience and know that it's good to at least have a chance to experience the experience. Like at least you're given a chance once, right? Without being made a fool of or being told you're bad or how dare you, And so, yeah, the idea of spanking too is sad, because then it's like, okay, one, it's harmful. I think there's like a trauma attached to it. It could be, right? And there could be, right, some fear that's instilled in somebody, right, of good nature, like kids are. And it could, instill fear. And I think that's the point. Spanking, it's to instill fear. So we all get it. And so, you're either for it or against it. And when it comes to like harming somebody, and I know that's not the intention, you think you're doing something good by spanking. You think you have to get this kid in order, in line, right? And on your path of belief and what you think are good characteristics. It's kind of like you got to get this kid in line. And so it's like, okay, is there spanking and is there also affection? Hopefully it's not just kind of this fear mongering that's happening in the household. There's also like love and affection in equal measure. And that's where the duality comes in. It's like maybe one parent isn't solely responsible for spoiling with affection. And I just mean affection, love and affection, hugs, kisses, cuddles, time spent talking and not rushing the person, intimacy, right? Closeness, connection. That's what I mean by affection. And then there's the other stuff that they also should know how to do, right? We can't just get by in the world, twiddling our thumbs and just kind of like looking up at the stars. We also, have to get to work. And so there's somebody to teach that. If at any point one's overflowing over the other, then, one is more dominant. And so that's going to be the dominant upbringing, the dominant nature in their upbringing. And so I think that's a lot of times where, co-parenting does enter like a lot of conflict, because you want to make sure you're in this flow with your co-parent partner and whoever that is, right? And sometimes there's step families. So there's like a third party involved in that, which makes a little bit of I think, complicated, right? Achieving that yin and yang. But, not to say it can't be done. It absolutely can be done. Anything's possible if it matters, right? If you make it important and you put in the work to see something through, then it will work out if both parties are also just as interested as seeing something through and communicating along the way and holding space, without shame, fear, judgment, holding space for that person to be and exist and experience at least once and take a chance, take a risk, and not get their head chopped off. So I don't know. That's been on my mind. So I wanted to ask you guys. So if you guys have you could chime in here, say something, or on YouTube, chime in, or in the comments later after this is already uploaded. I want to know. I want to hear from you. Like, what do you think? Can you spoil your child with affection? I'm reading Scott Galloway's book, The Algebra of Wealth. Really highly recommend. I have not finished it yet, but what I have heard of it so far, I love. And he he definitely, talks about himself being very stoic and angry at times, and having the motivation to just kind of like drive and push and haul and, climb. And that's probably, he talks about a story with his kids, and he's probably not the mother natured of the pair of co-parents, right? He's probably not that part. He's this other part. And so he's, driven for money and prestige and power. And so there's that lesson that their kids together get to have from him. And so there's power in that. And then, I'm sure the mother is the doting one and the affectionate one, right? And making sure that she's getting all of those, getting that bank account filled for them, right? He's going to fill maybe the physical bank. Mom's going to fill the emotional, self-awareness, that spiritual, divine connection, source connection. She's going to probably like help really foster that, and let or vice versa, right? I don't know, but one of you at least is doing that. So it could be the male, or it could be the female energies in the household. One of them is doing that, right? And so, yeah, I think with both energies, you have kind of a stereotypical approach to life, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think the stereotype there is, it's kind of irrelevant, because there's no judgment. There's just, it is what it is. There's these two energies that go into building someone into a whole, healthy, happy person, because they know in the face of either adversity or advantage, they can, and they will, and they do, and they are, and it's great. It's good. that is what um, I think. So I think I made a little note here because where this came from is because I was wondering, am I too coddly? Because um, I don't go to every tier. I don't run to every tier, every crying kid. I don't. However, I do trust my gut when a hug needs to be had, and nobody can tell me otherwise. And they're my boys, and so I get to do that. I get to be their mommy that is there for them when they need me, and in the best way I can be. And if the situation calls for me to get down and hug and hold them because something really startled their nervous system or made them afraid, or they're confused and frustrated and don't understand. And we've been here before. And so we've had our exposure to letting frustration sit. And what do we do when we're frustrated? Okay, breathe through it. No big deal. Let's try again. There's also that they also need to know. But there's also like, I can go to mommy and take her hand or ask for a hug, and she'll give it to me. And I think that's pretty powerful. Having at least somebody in your life like that brings you down a notch in terms of like, erupting. It's like, let's come back to center. Because we're relational beings. So we can't escape kind of this need to find that mate, right? That yin to our yang, that yang to our yin, and find that measure of compatibility. And so in a kid, that's their parents. It's kind of like they have that relationship with their mom, they have that relationship with their dad, they have that relationship with abuelos and all the people, right? Everybody, pop and all those, everybody gets, they have the dynamic, right? That relationship is cultivated through the exposure and the connection there. And so whatever that is, whatever you want that to be for you and yours, consider the options, consider what the perspective is, the interpretation of maybe how your behavior is to somebody who's really brand new to a relationship. And so one thing I recognize, and it probably was my first lesson that I wanted my boys to have from me, is that I love them no matter what, because I want them to know, should anything go really wrong and shit really hit the fan for them, I love them no matter what. Just blanket statement. They're even saying it now, to each other. And so that's really beautiful. But I love them no matter what. I want them to know they matter. They matter to me, to other people who love them. They matter in this world. They're important. And I want them to know like their light is here to impact the world. And so however they shine is making a measurable difference to the galaxy. They are here to shine and be their best selves. And it's not only in pursuit of impacting another person, but know that you do. So that's what I want them to do. And so why I bring that up is because when it came to mind that, am I spoiling them with affection? And I thought immediately, no, I'm not. It's because it's like, if we're relational beings, then at some point we are seeking validation. And that validation is going to be found in something. And no, I don't want to be, they don't have to be mama's boys. They don't have to, seek my approval for everything. But I would like to be a lighthouse, be just somebody, hey, just pointing that out, just letting you know that's there. Not all the time. I won't speak up all the time. I'll let you do your thing. I want you to know it's there. And that is like, you got to start somewhere. And so you got to really, if you're going to seek validation anyway, because what we also need are signposts along our way, along our path, that we're moving in the right direction, and that's going to come from like energies, who we're attracting, what is coming in our path, what are we met with, what are we faced with, who are we seeing, what are we doing, and how are we behaving, how does it feel? And so all of that is validation along the way. And it's just confirmation that, okay, well, I am on a good path, a good, happy path for me. If something doesn't feel good, I'm unsettled, doesn't feel peaceful, then maybe the path is not uh, not so good. And so what now? What do I do then? And that is, you kind of are giving the kids, your kids, the starting point for their experience with seeking validation. And that's a lot. That's a lot, right? Because we don't want them to chase it. We don't even want to chase validation. We want to be firm and whole in ourselves. But I think there's kind of like an evolution of that self-awareness and that self-actualization, that journey into ourselves and through ourselves and with ourselves in this world that says, I need less and less validation as I go, because I'm getting more and more. I've got enough confirmation, and confirmation is now just like in my blood, and I can go on my path and instantly just be getting these, nods of approval, from myself, because I'm now more in touch with myself. And I think as we're entering the world as kids and into adolescence and adulthood, and it's just like we are figuring it out. We're figuring it out. We are chasing validation to some point, to some extent, because we just need confirmation we're going the right way and we're developing in the way that best suits us. So we want to know how we're impacting another person. We want to know who we are and what does it matter, and do you even care, and can we be together, and in this life, can we partner up or just be friends? Which one is it? Actually, that's a good question. That's a good segue into this other question that came in. That was my question to you guys. Can you spoil a child? Tell me. But let's go ahead and segue, because I recognize the time. But did I finish what I wanted to say? I don't know. We'll come back to it. There's a lot we could say on that subject. So we talked about partnering. And so Ron says, how do I take on an investor? When is the right time? I think a lot of people are actually wondering about that, like, because Shark Tank is a big deal, and now there's Dragon's Den in the UK, and Silicon Valley, and we're learning a lot about, the funding stage, and, rounds of seeking investors and all that stuff, venture capital. And I think it's I don't know, as the world gets as global as it is, and even more so tomorrow, it's going to be easier to understand the nature of business, and so curious also about business that applies to you. And so I don't know any other context on this one, and that's okay. Again, I don't need the context when you guys write in questions. I really don't. I'm always going to take it kind of where I'm interpreting you meant, or at least, what I think might serve the greater audience. And so this one's going to probably throw you, Ron, but I think, why not? Why not take on an investor? I'm going to just answer your question like that. However, there is some nuance to it, or some depth, right? Business is deeper than this, than money, because an investor is a partner, right? And so there are mates, and I'm not going to use the word soulmate, but there are mates, like partnering with other people along this path of business, starting a business, running a business. And there are people that help you do your stuff better, because they're doing the stuff you don't do as well to their best ability. They do it better. And when you two combine forces, I mean, it's like this momentum is doubled. You get places faster because two people are pedaling at the same time. It's not just one. And I think when you look at it that way, partnership is a great thing, right? It's just like you want to partner with somebody in this world, because not just because financially it helps to be married on paper with somebody. Two incomes in a household means the household can do more, have more, live more. That it's that also, right? That's kind of on the marriage, more intimate, more intertwined level. And then you've got kind of business, so you're financially intertwined and all that stuff. And so it there is a mate out there, right, for you. And so taking on an investor, sometimes you find that mate. And not only that, you take on an investor now, and it's hard to give up, the share of any share of your business, because you might want 100% of it. Well, then that means you have to pay somebody to help you in the areas where you're not as good. And that's okay. Do you have the money to pay them, give them a salary so that they can operate at their fullest and best and highest in that role? So, because they feel like, okay, I can settle in on this because I know I can make ends meet. If you can pay that, then pay them, right? And if you need an investor to pay them that salary, then you can do that too. But the investor, depending on the terms and payback and all that stuff, and percentage of ownership you give up, that's going to determine, how much control you do have, and whether or not maybe you could have just taken that person on as a partner, given up another chunk of your shares, your ownership in a company, so that you guys can get along faster and better and smoother, right? And I mean, as much as you think it's smoother, it could. Partnerships break up all the time. Businesses don't work out because the partners fight and there's too much conflict, and no one wants to give up control. If you read my book, The Declutter Code, one of the forms of clutter is control. And what I mean by control is that if you're always looking to control everything to what you think it should look like, how everyone should be, so that I can predict it and I can feel better about myself because you're acting a way that makes me feel good, that is clutter. It's cluttering up your relationships. It's just taking a hold, and it's going to do some major damage if it doesn't get handled quick. Well, control in a business, it's kind of like, if you want, of course, for sure, right? You're a founder, maybe you want controlling shares, but you give up a stake in your ownership because you want somebody else to want it as bad as you. And you guys are both driving forward together. And not only that, this current business, I guarantee, is just one of the many facets that the income, the revenue you generate from this business right here is going to make a way for. There's more for you. There's always more for you. If you feel like there's more for you and you're just like, there's more for me, well, you're right. There's always more for us. There's always what's next, always, because we're not dead. And so we're here living this life now to the fullest, to the max, going all in, and we want to, put it all out there on the line, on the table. We want to we just want to make sure, we don't die with regret. So if that's the popular sentiment, then of course, right, we want to be on our deathbed and look back fondly and say, oh man, I did that. I took that risk. I went there. I did that. And, had and enjoyed myself, right? Well, when we partner with somebody, we're saying, I know I could probably do all that better with you. And, they're a specialist in their area, you're a specialist in yours, and together you guys have this synergy, and you just powerhouse your way to success in that field. And then maybe the exit plans, you guys sell that business together, and then you guys both go off and do your own thing. But notice how that was just a stepping stone for what's next. If you held the reins and you never let anybody help and climb on board and take one of the reins with you, maybe you both are going, and then you won't ever know, right, what could be, because you wanted control, you wanted to keep control. And I just would think, well, what can you kind of learn from someone else? What can you take in that doesn't, derail the whole ship, doesn't derail the whole cart? You like horse and cart, that whole, I don't know why I have this image of, the horse and buggy in the old days. And, because reins, I was saying the reins, the horse. And so someone else is with you and they got to be like on a seat near you. So that's the buggy. And you guys are just moving along, clickety clacking your way all the way to the destination. But anyway, so partnering, so you bring on an investor, and they put some money in. Maybe they're a silent investor, right? All the better, and they just want to be paid back. Or it's a bank, just want to be paid back. Or, it's like somebody's really partnering with you, like you're a visionary and they're the integrator. You're the dreamer, they're the doer. You're the author, they're the publicist or the agency, whatever. And so, it's like, okay, we're partnering on this. Every actor needs a manager. Every successful, serious actor needs a manager. And they get a publicist, right? When they want other deals, they want brand deals and brand sponsorships, and they want to enter the world of commerce. And so they get a publicist and an agent and all those things, right? And so acting was never the end goal. Acting was just a stepping stone. And so is it possible when things start to work out in your chosen field? Is it great that brings revenue because you love doing it, right? Imagine starting something that you love doing. Oh my gosh, and it works out. And then it's like, whoa, I get to keep doing this and still generating revenue and diversifying my portfolio. Absolutely. It feels great. So I don't know. Yes, I think you should take on an investor. And then what the terms are, you got to sit with that. What does this person bring to the table? Okay, I was thinking partnership as I'm answering this for the majority of it. But if your question about investor is like VC money and that kind of thing, then I guess it still all goes. Everything I just said is still relevant. You're kind of taking on a partner who maybe if they bring on like managerial experience and they can help build a team with you, build up systems. They have access to tech and AI and tools of that nature that can really bolster you in the marketplace and marketplace awareness of your brand, product, service. That is, a good thing. And this is what's happening on Shark Tank all the time. They're coming on and they're like, I don't know distribution. I'm failing there. What I'm successful in is social media. I'm out there and we're hustling and we got 1 million followers and everybody loves our mushroom coffee and we just don't know how to get it into more stores. We want to get into Costco and Walmart and Whole Foods. And Shark Tank's like, okay, I can do that. I'll take 10%. I don't know, whatever. So yeah, it's obviously going to get complicated in that regard because you want to think about what you bring to the table, what's your kind of value, and is it on par with theirs? And what are you willing to give up when it seems like, okay, well, what's the multiplier there that you bring them on? And does that triple, quadruple? Does that 10x your business? What does it do? What do you see that it do? Kind of make those projections and all that stuff. I'm not the one, but I get it. That I wouldn't be the one doing that for you. I'm just saying here's where the due diligence enters the picture. And you start to, figure out how much you are willing to give up of this business so that it can move forward and it doesn't, die on the vine because you didn't ask to be picked out. You're like this little cherry tomato on the vine and nobody comes to pick you and put you in their salad. It's like, then you just die on the vine. You don't want that, right? So for that reason, I guess I'm in on an investor. Okay, enough. What do you call those puns? Okay, so let's see. Where are we at with time? Okay, so let's take on this next one. So Samantha says, you always talk about visualization. I want to do it more and get consistent at doing it, but how do I know if I'm doing it right? Well, geez, I don't know. That closing your eyes and daydreaming you can get wrong. I think, okay, so the foundation of visualization, and I know that in the UK they say envisage. If you watched me last week, I talked about Emma Greed and her podcast, and she says envision. I can't even say it. Envisage. And we in the US say envision, envisage. And so there's a lot of like these European podcasters. So you get to hear like how they talk over across the pond. And anyway, so I think the secret to visualization in a nutshell, okay, ready? You just got to believe in it. Because we daydream all the time, but to use the visualization as a tool for manifestation of having your dreams come true, then you've got to believe that it's part of what factors into the actual becoming, it actually becoming real. And when you believe that all those little moments as a kid, you were sitting in your desk, like science class, the teacher's on the projector, and we had the projector and the slide, the film slides where you like put it under the light and like it projects onto, that was me. And whenever that would come on, I just knew like, oh man, I'm gonna fall asleep. Well, or just drift and just like not be present because I really don't like this stuff. But anyway, that was usually math. But so I did my best daydreaming during a math class, during a math section. And I would, be dreaming about who knows what. I don't know. But that time daydreaming, just like, if we gave ourselves that opportunity today to daydream and drift off into like dreamier scenarios than this, then, you would be calling it to you. Because like if we go back to what I was talking about with oxytocin and serotonin, like you're manufacturing that within yourself when you drift on a daydream of like pure bliss. And I'm like, okay, I can see myself getting out of school, the bell rings, and I get to go home and get into my pajamas and like, I don't know, after I put off homework and watch TV, who knows, have a snack, eat my favorite cereal. All these things are coming into my head, right? Well, how has that changed and what is it now for you? What are you daydreaming now? What is the cereal? Is it caviar? What is it now, right? So when you give yourself the opportunity to dream it in that, that this is actually moving the gears along and saying to the universe, hey, listen, this is what I'm into right now. This is what I want. And I'm serious about having it. And let's make it happen. Okay. And the molecules in your body, your physiology just starts to like erupt with magnets of desire. And you are saying to anyone within vibrational reach, this is what I want. And like attracts like, you're going to be a magnet to those that are like, oh, I get this vibe and I want, I'm in, let's do this. And the universe is also getting it and saying, okay, your wish is my command. Let's do this. And, in a daydream, in visualization, you are actively conjuring up the images of a life well lived, essentially, right? So if I'm leading a visualization session, I'm asking questions like, what are you doing? Where are you? What's the color on the walls? What's on your desk if you're working? What's the book you got open? What is, when you look up above your computer screen, what do you see? What's there? And how does it feel? And why is it there? And what does it make you think about yourself? And so see how it's starting to just get into a really rich picture of what's possible. And the more you sit in that, so let's say you set a timer for 10 minutes and you did that on a daily basis, that the gap between you and having that is going to close so fast. If you literally let yourself just luxuriate in the fantasy, and then when you got to manage your energy afterward, because if you believe in it, if you believe that time spent in visualization is getting you somewhere with what you want towards your goals, then not to have anybody steal your joy and kill your vibe. Like you really need to protect your vibration in that way and stay aligned with what you dreamt earlier that day, and stay charged up on that type of fuel. Then yes, that gap will close like that. I've seen it. It's happened to me. I've seen it happen to others. It's that powerful. And so I'm glad, Samantha, you're into this. You're trying it out. The book I like on visualization is Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain. Really good book, like bestseller on the subject. So I would highly recommend that, because if you're ready and serious, on doing that, just start, just do it, just sit down and daydream. Think of it like that. That's how you know you're doing it right. You're giving it time in your day. You're making it part of what's important to you and part of the process of getting, feeling successful, being successful, getting successful, wherever that is for you. That's how you're tapping into this vein that's going to like produce for you. Because, how do you know where you want to go unless you sit down and think about it, right? You see yourself there, which means if you see yourself there in this vision, this daydream of you being home, cuddled up in your cozy pajamas, eating your cereal on the couch, and that's just like dreamy for you compared to like where you are now. Maybe you're an introvert and you just want to get home. It's like you see yourself there. And so it's just like you're salivating to get there, and you'll get there, right? There's no doubt about it. You will be in those sweats soon. You'll get there. That means that you were able to weather the storm, go the distance, meet the challenges, overcome the obstacles, and get to that couch and in your pajamas and cozy with your bowl of cereal. Same goes for, buying the mansion and buying the yacht, and having the yacht be able to dock at the mansion in the backyard. So it's like, and then you don't even need to know like where that is in the world. You just start there. You don't need to know, well, what places in the world have docks where the dock is your backyard and I can pull my yacht up to, like, none of that matters. You just need to visualize you having it, because trust me, the opportunity will come and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I never knew that existed. Or I'm going to fly overseas and live to have that. But it's going to all kind of like morph and evolve and get fleshier as you do it more often. And another way of doing it is like journaling about what you want and kind of just riffing on what you want to have and see in your life. You're imagining yourself. So you can understand, like, you're imagining yourself having done the work to get there, whatever it took, right? And who cares what it took? And obviously we want to be ethical and be kind along the way, and, not get locked up in jail for something, right? Because then we wouldn't have that. And so we know, right? It kind of like, if we're there in our vision, then we know we've gone about it in a way that feels good. Because if we feel good in our vision, then we have like put in the effort to feel good along the way. I don't believe you can have a goal that does not feel good and think that you'll feel good later. You cannot. You cannot be moving in the direction of feeling good and not effort to feel good now. Not put in the time, energy, and the mindset, the thoughts to bring about feeling good, right? It takes some unlearning of the things that have settled on our spirit and become our belief system that is contrary to us feeling good, because only good flows. And that is the way of the world. And unless we're feeling good, we're resisting feeling good. And so what are we doing to resist feeling good? That's not so. And I think all this stuff will kind of come out in a visualization practice, coupled with journaling and meditation, which are separate things. You can make them fit together. But if you just want to be a powerhouse at manifestation, I would have all three in your toolkit as regular, consistent behavior. And I mean, who has the time for that? So do your best. Maybe it's like one thing every other day or something. I don't know, but really do what you're called to do, honestly. And just know that you're, moving in that direction. You're going with that flow of feeling good, as long as you do the effort now to feel good now. This is the moment that matters. This is the moment that's here for you, that everything else builds on. And when you look at it that way, you want a solid, firm foundation in the knowings of feeling good, in the acquaintance of feeling good. And that goes back to not spoiling our kids with affection, because there isn't, or hold on, hold on. Let's make that soundbite right. That there's no such thing, that goes to there being no such thing as spoiling them with affection, because you want them to know at least one part of this dual natured upbringing that you want them to be exposed to. At least one part of it is, reminding them to feel good, to seek to feel good. And if something's not feeling good, well, what is it? And what can you do about it? Can you leave the room? Can you not hang out with that person anymore? Can you spend more time doing the things you do love? So maybe it takes up the space that was filled with the things that aren't feeling so good. Is there more of what you can do that feels better? Are there better feeling thoughts that you can think about right now, that you can tell yourself right now? They say that, a parent's talk to your kids becomes their self-talk later. And if that's the case, then I absolutely I want them to know positive self-talk, positive reinforcement. I want them to know they're good. I want them to know that they matter. I want them to know that their light impacts the world and to shine. All right, so that is a wrap on our Clarity Hotline. Join me next week, 12 noon Pacific time on Thursday. And you can submit your question at clarityhotline.com. And I'll put in the description how to work with me if you're interested in working with me in any way. Visualization is just part of what I do. I don't really have anything where I'm just visualizing with you, but we can work on something like that in a day intensive. If you were to join me for a day intensive, we could do something like that. But anyway, all right. So, all right, fam, we out. Join me next week. Peace. All right, you too. Thanks for coming out.